Bilal the Ethiopian. We always hear Muslims speak about Bilal, the black man who was one of Muhammad's slaves. Muslims try to fool African Americans into believing that there is no racism in Islam by telling them that Bilal was the first to chant the call for prayer. What the Muslims will not say is that Bilal was simply following orders from Muhammad, his master. Bilal was not given a place of honor as Muslims want us to think. Bilal was just a slave following another order from his master. Let us see how Bilal had no life. He was a slave who did not have the right to choose what to do. Bilal and the call for prayer. I can show hundreds of hadiths about Bilal doing tasks that are all ordered for him to do, including orders for him to do the call for prayer. Allah's apostle orders Bilal to get up and pronounce the adhar for prayers. 1 Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 11, Hadith 578. 2 Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 11, Hadith 579. 3 Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 11, Hadith 580. 4 Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 56, Hadith 663. 5 Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 52, Hadith 297. 6 Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 1, Hadith 0193. Then he commanded Bilal to call for prayer. Ask yourself why Muhammad did not call for the prayer himself, or why he never ordered Abu Bakr or Ali or anyone else. Only this poor slave had to get up early in the morning and get ready before everyone else, and then scream to wake up all of Mecca. He was selected to do the call for prayer simply because no one wanted to do it. It's the slave's job. Bilal the news slave. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 4, Book 52, Hadith 297. Bilal was ordered to announce the news amongst the people. May Allah support this religion of Islam with wicked men. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 8, Book 77, Hadith 603, Allah's Messenger said, Bilal, get up and broadcast in the community, none will enter heaven but a worshipper and Allah may. He supports this religion Islam with wicked men. Bilal the food servant at home and out. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 59, Hadith 524. The messenger ordered Bilal to lay out the leather carpets on which dates, dehydrated yogurt and butter were put on it. Bilal the money bag. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 3, Book 38, Hadith 504. The Prophet of Allah said, O Bilal, pay him the price of the camel and provide him bonus money. Even other people ordered Bilal around. Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 2, Hadith 498. Afterwards the Apostle of Allah, may Allah pray on him, said, O Bilal, stand up, see what Abdullah ibn Zayd commanded you to do, then do it. Muhammad also made it clear that a slave, even if he is a Muslim, cannot be a witness in the court, as we can see in the Quran 5:10-6, interpretation of Tawi. Al-Mike Bas minimum tafsir ibn Abbas. Al-Mike Bas minimum tafsir ibn Abbas. O ye who you believe, let there be witnesses among and between you, in agreement or upon traveling, so when one of you dies, then of the dead person 2 witnesses should testify for his will, just men from among you, no women accepted, 2 free men, no slave accepted. Bilal is asking to be freed from Abu Bakr. In the coming hadith, we see the slave Bilal begging for his freedom after Muhammad's death, and he still did not get it. Sahih Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 57. Hadith 99. Narrated Qais, Bilal said to Abu Bakr, if you have bought me for own, then keep me for yourself to serve, but if you have bought me for the sake of Allah, then free me to do work for Allah. After all the services this man provided, why did he need to beg for his freedom? Shouldn't he get it right away from the good Prophet Muhammad or the good companion Abu Bakr? Why didn't Muhammad order Abu Bakr to do it? This man was a faithful slave to them. He fought and kidnapped for them. He fed the animals and collected money for his masters as a merchant. He did everything. Why did the good men of Allah wait for him to beg for his freedom? Umar ibn al-Khattab and slavery. As long as we started with the hadith of Umar ibn al-Khattab, I will show some stories about this man and see how ugly his character is. You can find this hadith in the book, The Pact of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Let's see how this man dealt with slaves. The Imam al-Bayhaqi records in Al-Su'a al-Kubra, Volume 2, p. 227. Hadith from grandfather of Anas, son of Malik, that the women slaves of Umar ibn al-Khattab used to serve us with their hair uncovered and their breasts shaking touching their hair. You will notice that Umar al-Khattab owned many female slaves. Not only that. In the following hadith, you will notice that al-Khattab beat the slave women when they covered themselves. He wanted them exposed for him and his visitors. When they covered themselves, he wanted them exposed for him and his visitors to enjoy watching. Book of Kanes al-Umal fi Surah al-Aqwal, Hadith 4192-5. Reported by us, Umar ibn al-Khattab saw a slave woman wearing her headscarf, so he beat her, screaming, "You should not clothe yourself like a free woman." You can find the same narration in the following books. Tabeq at-Ibsad, Volume 7, p. 127, Tariq Damishq, Volume 58, p. 191. Book of Kit al-Umal fi Surah al-Aqwal, Volume 15, Hadith 4192-8, p. 486. Reported by al-Muzib ibn Daram, he said, "I saw Umar beating a woman slave on her head with a stick until her cover fell down, and he told her not to dress or assume the manner of a free woman." Umar praises Allah that the black sun is not his. Book of al-Mugny by Ibn Qudamah, Volume 10, p. 412. Reported from Sa'idi by Sufua from Ibn Abu Ajaj from a man in the city of Madia, Umar used to pull out his male organ before he had orgasm when he was having sex with a female slave girl. One day, she told him that she was pregnant. Then Umar, praying to Allah, said, "Allah, do not make in my family one who is not from me, because no one in my family is from a shameful line." Then the slave girl gave birth to a black boy. Umar asked her who was the baby's father. She said the camel shepherd. Then Umar thanked Allah, that he is not the father. In this hadith, we see that the slave girl is nothing but a sex toy. Her master and his friends shared her. It is clear from the narration that Umar used slaves for his friends shared her. It is clear from the narration that Umar used slaves for sex only, not procreation. However, remember that Muslims claim Islam is against adultery, yet we see here that sharing a slave girl is permitted. A slave girl is not considered human enough that a sexual relationship with her would be condemned as adultery. Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 58, Hadith 197. I saw the Messenger of Allah, and in the company of him were the only ones who converted to Islam, 5 slaves, 2 women, and Abu Bakr. As always, we see Muhammad owning slaves, and his house is full of them. Notice also in the narration that no one can enter his house without first asking for permission through his slaves. Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 72, Hadith 734. At the doorway of the room, over there was a black slave to whom I walked and said, "I request to me a permission from the Prophet to enter." He authorized me, and I entered to see the Prophet lying on a carpet that had left its engraving on his side. Book of Kez el-Umal fi Surah al-Aqwal, Hadith 4482-4, http://www.alman.com/islamlab/future bid equals 137 and sid equals 629. You give the free women 2 nights and slave women 1 night, for sex. Book of al-Mabad fi Shar'i Abu Dawud, p. 190. Imam al-Swaiti said, "Beat not your wife the same way you beat the slave women." This means you can beat them both, but you can be harder on slave women. Killing someone is not always punishable by death. According to Muhammad, the killer can pay what is called a payback ransom. The victim's life is exchanged with a female slave or a newborn baby male. Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 83, Hadith 41. Reported by Abu Hurairah, 2 adult females from the tribe of Hazal fought, and one of them threw a rock at the other woman, causing her a miscarriage. Allah's apostle gave his judgment that the killer of the fetus should give a slave's newborn baby, male or female, as payback ransom to the woman who had the miscarriage. This hadith can be found in Arabic in Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 1681, and Sahih Muslim, Hadith 6910. Let's think about this story for few moments. Imagine yourself a slave woman. And your lady master caused someone to have a miscarriage. Ask yourself these questions. 1. Is it from the mercy of Allah and His Prophet that the slave woman, who did no crime, should lose her baby to a strange woman, as if her baby is a puppy to give away at any time to anyone? 2. Is it fair, from the mercy of Allah and His Prophet, that the baby will grow without his biological mother for no crime of his own? 3. If Muhammad was a slave, would he like it if someone took his newborn son or daughter as payment for a crime he did not do? Muhammad made his judgment regarding the death of the fetus based on the Quran, Al-Baqarah, Quran 2:17-8. O you who believe! It's an order upon yourselves in the case of murder. Punishment, free for the free, slave for the slave, and women for the woman. However, Muhammad did not really follow what this verse commanded. The Quran had no answer for a case where an adult kills an unborn baby, so he created a new rule. He added to the Quran as law, that the payback ransom in such cases is a newborn baby of a slave. The fact is Muhammad made it clear that there is not punishment for killing a slave. The free man will not be killed for murdering the slave. Mutta Malik, Book 43, Hadith 21.15. According to Quran of Allah, the High the Glorified, in the case of the counter attack it is written for you in the case of murdering the freeman for the freeman, and the slave for the slave. Malik said, the one was murdered, only has the right against the one who murdered him. If the killer who murdered the man, he dies, the one was murdered has no rights against the killers no more, or blood money. Malik said, there is no punishment arranged against a freeman by a slave for any injury. The slave is killed for the freeman when he purposely murders him. The free man will not be killed for murdering the slave, even if he murders. He did it intentionally. This is the most accurate way I learned. Notice also that the verse divides the human race into 3 classes, and the judgment for each class is exclusive. If a free man kills another freeman, the killer is sentenced to death. If a freeman kills a slave, he is not sentenced to death. Instead, one of the free man's slaves will be killed, or he pays the owner of the slave with another slave. If a woman is killed, another woman is killed as payment for her death. What kind of justice is this? Muslims give us speeches about the merciful Allah and the merciful Muhammad, but narratives like these show just how Islam exemplifies the cruel way slaves are treated, as mere commodities and sex toys. Slaves are not even allowed to sing, as we see in the following hadith. If a slave owner dies and his slave girl sings for him, Muslims are commanded not to pray for him. Islam forbids singing, so the dead man will be condemned to hell. Book of Ahkam al-Quran by Ibn al-Arabi, Volume 3, number 525. Reported by Aisha, she said the Prophet, may Allah pray on him, said, if a man dies, and he has a slave girl who sings for him, do not pray for him. However, the hypocrisy of Muhammad is endless. Regardless of this forbidden art, he used to order his slaves to sing. Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 15, Hadith 70. Allah's Messenger attained to my residence while 2 slave girls were singing close to me the songs of Bu'ath, which is a song about war before Islam between close to me the songs of Bu'ath, which is a song about war before Islam between 2 tribes, the Khazraj and the Aws. The messenger laid down on the bed and turned his face to the other side. Then Abu Bakr came and spoke to me harshly, saying, musical instruments with flute of sitar near the messenger of Allah. Therefore, the messenger rotated his face towards him and said, leave them. And later I winked at the girls to go out, and they left. It was the holy day. As you see, slave girls are singing for Muhammad's entertainment, songs which had nothing to do with Allah or Islam, but still he liked it. And it's very clear that Abu Bakr was outraged with Muhammad's behavior and hypocrisy. Because if a Muslim listens to songs, he is going to hell, as the prior hadith indicated. Book of Al-Bidayah and Al-Hayya, Volume 4, p. 224. Abu Dawud said from Anas ibn Malik, he said Safiya was given away from the share of the al-Qalbi. Safiya is the Jewish woman that Muhammad took as his wife after slaughtering all the men of her tribe and enslaving the women and children. Book of Al-Bidayah and Al-Hayya, Volume 4, p. 229. The same was done to all of the tribe of Khaybar. Al-Turi said the Prophet's share was a fifth of the tribe of Khaybar. Muhammad took 1/5 of the loot from the city of Khaybar, and 4/5 went to the rest of the Muslims. If there were 5,000 women to be distributed as slaves in that tribe, Muhammad's share would be 1,000 women slaves. If there were 20,000 children, Muhammad alone would have gained 4,000 child slaves. Muslim, Sunni or Shia, are no different when it comes to slavery. Book of Bahr al-Anwar, Volume 101, number 58. The prayer of three people was not accepted by Allah. A slave who is not obeying his master, until he obey again, an imam who leads a prayer for those who do not like him, and a woman who lets her husband sleep angry. Book of Al-Istibsar, Volume 3, p. 136. Al-Tos reported that Abu Ja'far said, "Can a man give his brother the vagina of his slave?" He said, "Yes, it is permissible to do what he allowed him to do to her." The following hadith illustrate how a man can loan his slave girl for sex. Book of Tardib al-Arkam, Volume 7, p. 244, Book of Al-Kafi, Volume 5, Chapter 300. Hadith 16. A man came and asked Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq if it was permissible to temporarily loan a woman, slave girl, to another man. The Imam said, "It is not allowed, but..." Then he stopped for a moment and Imam Ja'far added, "There is no harm if one makes her halal to one of his brothers." Someone might come to us and say that slavery was widespread at that time and that it was accepted as normal. He will say there's really nothing new. It was normal practice. I am going to show you a fatwa that shows the Islamic stance on slavery that remains true today. The fatwa is dated May the 22nd, 2005. For those who do not know, a fatwa is an answer given by Muslim leaders that are based on Allah's orders, Sharia law, from the Quran and Sunnah. Fatwa number 62344. Is it permissible to enjoy slave women sexually for the Muslim who has 4 wives? May the 22nd, 2005, equivalent to Saturday, 13th day of the first month of spring in the Islamic year 1426. The question. I need the explanation of the verse "Whatever you own on your right hand, like slave women, from what Allah gave you." Al-Ahzab, Quran 33:50. Does it mean that it is permissible for a man to marry slave women in addition to his 4 wives? The fatwa, the answer. Praise be to Allah and prayer on our Prophet and his family and friends. It is not permissible to have more than 4 wives at the same time, but having more than 4 slave girls for sexual enjoyment is permissible, and having many slaves and enjoying them all sexually is permissible regardless of their number. The Imam al-Qaysawi in his book, Juwaymi al-Fuad, said that there are 2 reasons for gathering foreign women, one to marry them and another to enjoy them sexually. However, gathering them for marriage is not permissible if you already have 4 wives. But having more than 4 foreign women for sex only, and not marriage, is permissible. This is based on the man's right over them as his slaves. Having many women slaves for sex is always permissible without any conditions that limit the maximum number that a man can own, as stated in Quran 4:3 and Nichols 4:3. The Islamic fatwa site in Arabic can be found here. What we get from this fatwa, number 62344, is that Islam changed nothing. Islam embraced slavery rather than put a stop to it. The humiliation of men and women continued. Not only did Islam approve slavery, it made it legal for Muslims to practice it forever. Slave ownership and abuse is still allowed today. Because the Muslims don't have any other source about slavery. They only have the Quran and Muhammad's actions and the Hadith to follow. It gives a Muslim the perpetual right to kidnap and rape non-Muslim women and use them as sex slaves for as long as they live. Let me point out that this fatwa alone proves the hypocrisy of Muslims in the West. They convert African Americans to Islam by pointing to the slavery of blacks by the white man. The Muslims claim that Islam condemned slavery is quite the opposite of the truth about the Islamic stance on slavery.